...1998 was really a good year for gaming. It saw the release of some really huge PC titles, like Unreal and Half-Life, which redefined the first-person shooter and set the standard for years to come. And it's also the year that kind of gave birth to the 3D stealth genre. On the PC we got Thief the Dark Project, and on consoles we got Metal Gear Solid and Tenchu's Stealth Assassins. These were three very different games that were all taking their own approach at the genre, and they all had their strong and weak points. Thief was unique in the fact that it focused more on using the environment around you and making the player base all of their strategic decisions on situational awareness. Your best friend was your light meter, a jewel that sat in the bottom of the screen. Moving from shadow to shadow was an essential skill to remaining undetected. You also had to listen for footsteps, voices, doors opening and so forth, and also be aware of your own. It really utilised sound and ambient lighting to heighten the mood and make you fully aware of your surroundings. When you were inevitably discovered by enemies, you were better off running and hiding than standing your ground. This was also similar to the way Metal Gear Solid handled detection. Despite giving you lots of guns and gadgets to play with, a tactical retreat was always a more viable choice. It was all about learning the routes guards would take, waiting until their backs were turned and sneaking by them unnoticed. Field of vision was paramount here. Killing them or making too much noise would just raise an alarm and send reinforcements, and you didn't want that. Tenchu, on the other hand, takes a few elements from both but still does its own thing. I mean, obviously you want to move silently and remain undetected, but it didn't discourage you from killing your enemies stealthily. It often rewarded you for being stealthy by showing you a nice little mini cutscene, as your character would slice or disembowel an unsuspecting enemy in various ways. It was released in early 1998, several months before Thief and MGS, so in essence it's really the first 3D stealth game ever made. It was the cause of a lot of controversy back in the day, mainly for its nonchalant approach to killing people and the copious amounts of blood that would spurt from enemies when you ran them in with your samurai sword. You were given the choice of playing as two ninjas, either the male Rikimaru or the female ninja Ayame, working for the fictional Lord Goda. They pretty much had an identical moveset and controlled the same. The major difference between them was the interactions with other characters. Rikimaru is as you would expect a ninja to be. He's honourable, polite, chivalrous.
You are a master swordsman and an honorable man. It is a shame we could not fight as allies.
Whereas Ayame was just...
Your parents must not have done a very good job.
well, she was a bit of a bitch.
It's a beautiful night. You should be looking for a boyfriend, not playing with your dad's weapon.
She more often than not would just taunt and insult her opponents.
You've been a bad boy. It's payback time. It's just you and me now. You're repulsive. Hurry up and die.
One particular level against the corrupt merchant as Rikimaru would end with you assisting him with seppuku.
I will assist you.
Yes, thank you.
However, if you played the same level as Ayame, she pissed him off so much that it ended up having to fight him to the death.
You shall die by my arrows.
She acts more like a spoiled teenager than a ninja assassin. Thematically, it's centered around fairly basic samurai lore, mixed with hints of the supernatural and the downright bizarre.
I underestimated you. Next time, you die.
Here's a game that starts off fairly grounded, with you executing corrupt merchants and bandits, then takes a serious departure into the Twilight Zone, introducing a batshit insane nemesis named Onikage, and sending you off against crazed fire-spitting cultists and demons. There was a short briefing before each mission, which seemed to be narrated by the same guy who does the intro to the Iron Chef.
If these plans are delivered to Lord Goda, his forces will crush the outlaws at little cost.
It was 4 months ago when the Ota faction tried to invade the kitchen stadium.
Then you'd be given the option to outfit yourself with various ninja gadgets and tools to help you in your mission. The general structure level to level was just find your way from A to B, avoiding or killing anyone you came across. At the end of the level there was usually a boss fight, which was just a bigger version of the normal enemies, and if you had bought enough grenades at the beginning of the level, these guys were pushovers. You got a ranking at the end of the level, which would obviously be higher dependent on your outcome. Achieving the ultimate rank of Grand Master unlocked a secret item, which would get progressively more useful and awesome the later you got in the game, but also much harder to obtain. This game is hard, but for all the wrong reasons. The main problem lies in the draw distance. I'm not one to criticise the PlayStation's hardware. Considering the age of the game, it looks pretty good for what it's trying to achieve. The dilemma here is that the environment and enemies sort of pop in as you move forward. Now it kind of works within the setting. I mean, every single level in the game is set at night. So obviously your field of vision is going to be limited, but this also means that 99% of the time, the enemies see you at the same time you see them. What this really boils down to is that the enemies will go from completely unaware to swinging their katana at you in the blink of an eye. If you're trying to reach that much coveted Grandmaster Ninja rank, then you're going to need a lot of patience. A lot of times you get detected and you don't even know where it's coming from. This would often end in a sword fight, which is both time consuming and dangerous. I say dangerous because while the sword fights themselves aren't particularly difficult, they can often alert other enemies to your presence, and these guys don't wait to take turns to cut you up. This could be really frustrating in boss fights when you had 2 or 3 stragglers still taking swings at you. Though they're so keen to murder you that they often hit their own allies in the process, which is kind of funny to watch and can actually be used to your advantage. Speaking of funny, this game had some absolutely terrible voice acting. I'm not sure if the dialogue was lost in translation or what happened here, but it's up there with Resident Evil 1 as some truly cringe-worthy voice work.
The money is merely a token of our appreciation.
It looks like you chose the wrong party to crash.
No, you have done well. Leave it to me.
I guess you deserve a thank you this time?
The guy who does Rikimaru's voice is really the only one who gets away with it, as he actually talks with some conviction. Everyone else sounds like they're reading off cue cards, and poorly at that. The music though is in a whole different league. The soundtrack is simply awesome, and each theme fits perfectly with the mood of the level it accompanies. It truly stands out as one of the best soundtracks of any PlayStation game. God damn, that's good. Tenchu isn't really a difficult game to finish. The missions take anywhere between 10 to 20 minutes to complete, and there's only 10 of them in total. Most of the missions themselves are pretty easy to finish, and if you give up on trying to be stealthy, you can usually just run by most enemies without even taking a hit. The last mission of the game is really the only difficult one out of the lot, and that's only because of its length. It's probably 2 to 3 times as long as the other missions, and the final boss is way harder than anything else you've ever fought before. Every other fight beforehand is all about waiting for the opportune moment and striking. You'd often defend a lot of the time, then retaliate when your opponent let his guard down. However, you try to adopt that same strategy with the final boss, only to find that he spams you with these unblockable lightning attacks and teleports all over the place, stabbing you in the back. I mean, it's nice they threw a spanner into the works with this guy, but it definitely catches you off guard first playthrough. It's particularly annoying because dying in this game is generally a mission restart after you sit through the game over screen. In life a shadow, in death a failure. Far out, rub it in a little bit more, Jesus Christ. Tenchu is really a mixed bag. It's a game that doesn't get enough credit for its additions to the stealth genre, but on the other hand, it didn't really do a good enough job with those elements in the first place. And whilst trying to be stealthy is all well and good, it's often more fun just to cut your enemies up face to face. It's really not an easy game to appreciate, and technologically it hasn't aged well. Metal Gear Solid and Thief, on the other hand, are still widely referenced, even to this day, as the granddaddies of 3D stealth, and that's praise that is well earned. All 3 series have all had numerous sequels and remakes, and they've evolved over time and become staples of the stealth genre. Tenchu's a unique game that was let down more by the technology than the concept itself. With a better draw distance and perhaps an improved alertness system for enemies, it might have gone down as a classic. As it is though, it's definitely worth checking out if you ever feel the need to run across polygonal rooftops in feudal Japan and slice the throats of bandits and evil ninjas.